In Ghana, where the Atlantic roars against the rocks, my story began on a quiet fishing morning that turned into betrayal. I grew up in a small coastal village where the sea fed us and tested us at the same time. My two older brothers were known as strong fishermen, respected by the elders and feared by boys my age. I was the quiet one, the dreamer, always staring at the horizon as if something beyond it was calling my name. I never knew that the danger I feared from the sea would not come from beneath the waves, but from the same blood that flowed in my veins. That morning, they told me we were going far into deep waters where the biggest fish swam. I was excited, thinking they had finally accepted me as a man. The canoe rocked gently as we paddled away from shore, the village shrinking behind us. But when we reached the darkest part of the sea, their smiles changed. Before I could understand what was happening, strong hands pushed me over the edge. The last thing I saw were their cold faces as I sank into the water. As you listen, comment where you are watching from: Ghana, Nigeria, South Africa, California, Jamaica, Trinidad, New York, Florida, Kenya, or London. We would love to know. Water filled my ears, my nose, my mouth. I kicked and struggled, but the ocean swallowed my screams. Below me, shadows moved. Sharks. I thought it was the end of my life. But something strange began to happen.
The deeper I sank, the more the noise of the world disappeared. The panic that once burned in my chest slowly turned into something else, something calm and unfamiliar. My arms stopped fighting. My legs stopped kicking. I should have been drowning, yet I was still alive. The salt water that filled my mouth did not choke me. Instead, it felt light, almost like air. My eyes opened beneath the sea, and to my shock, I could see clearly in the dark blue depths. The shadows I feared began to circle me. Massive sharks, their sharp teeth flashing as they moved with silent power. One came so close that I could see its cold eyes staring directly into mine. I waited for pain, for the tearing of flesh, but it never came. Instead, the shark slowed down. Its movement softened. It swam around me like a guardian, not a predator. Then another joined, and another, until I was surrounded by them. But they were not attacking. They were protecting me. Suddenly, a strange warmth spread through my chest. A faint blue glow began to shine from my skin, lighting up the dark water around me. I felt stronger than I had ever felt in my life. I could breathe. I could move with speed. The sea was no longer my enemy. It felt like home. Far above, I could see the faint outline of my brother's canoe drifting away. They believed I was dead. They believed the sharks had finished their cruel work. They did not know that something ancient had awakened inside me, something powerful, something that would change everything. And as I floated there, surrounded by creatures that once terrified me, I realized this was not the end of my story. It was only the beginning of something mysterious and unstoppable.
The blue glow around my body grew brighter, and with it came memories that did not feel like my own. I saw visions of my ancestors, fishermen and warriors who had lived by the sea for generations. In the vision, an old woman with white hair and tribal markings on her face stood before a stormy ocean. She lifted her hands, and the sea obeyed her. Then she looked directly at me and said without moving her lips, "The sea protects its own." The vision faded, but the power remained. I stretched out my hand underwater, and the currents shifted around my fingers. A simple movement created a spiral of water that danced like a living thing. The sharks swam beside me calmly, as if waiting for my command. I understood then that this was not an accident. The ocean had chosen me. Or perhaps it had always been inside me, waiting for the right moment to awaken. Above the surface, the sun was beginning to set. My brothers would be reaching the village by now, telling everyone that the sea had claimed me. They would cry fake tears and accept the sympathy of the people. But I was not dead. I rose slowly towards the surface, riding a column of water that lifted me like invisible hands. When my head broke through the waves, the wind felt different. The sea no longer roared at me. It whispered. I did not swim back to shore immediately. Instead, I stood on the water for a brief moment, feeling the power surge through me. I knew I could call storms. I knew I could command the creatures beneath. The fear they tried to bury with me had turned into strength, and my return would not be quiet.
Night had already fallen by the time I stepped onto the shore. The village was glowing with small lanterns, and I could hear distant drums from a naming ceremony happening near the chief's compound. My brothers were there, pretending to mourn me. I could almost imagine them shaking their heads, telling everyone how brave I was before the sea swallowed me. They never expected the sea to return me alive. As I walked toward the village square, the wind began to rise behind me. The ocean waves grew louder, crashing harder against the rocks. Some fishermen turned to look at the water, confused by the sudden change in weather. When the first person saw me standing there, soaked but unharmed, he dropped the lantern in his hand. The flame flickered on the sand as whispers spread like wildfire. "Is that not him?" someone murmured. My brothers froze when their eyes met mine. Fear replaced their fake sorrow instantly. I said nothing at first. I simply lifted my hand slightly, and the ocean responded. A massive wave rose behind me, tall and powerful, but it did not move forward. It waited. The entire village gasped. Children hid behind their mothers. The chief stepped forward slowly, staring at me as if seeing a spirit. "I did not die," I finally said calmly. "The sea judged me innocent." The wave crashed back into the ocean without touching the village. Silence followed. My brothers fell to their knees, trembling. They knew the truth could no longer hide beneath lies. The mysterious power inside me was not for revenge alone. It was for justice. And justice was about to be served.
The entire village stood frozen as my brothers knelt before me, shaking like leaves in a storm. The chief looked from them to me, waiting for me to speak. I could feel the ocean's power still flowing through my veins, strong and steady, like a heartbeat connected to the tides. I had the strength to destroy them, to call a wave that would sweep them into the darkness they wished for me. But as I looked at their terrified faces, I remembered the vision of the old woman. The sea protects its own, but it does not act with wisdom. "I leave your judgment to the truth," I said firmly. "Let the elders decide your fate." Gasps filled the air. My brothers began confessing immediately, their voices cracking as they admitted their jealousy and hatred. They feared that one day I would become more respected than them. Their greed had pushed them to murder. The elders listened carefully and declared their punishment. They would no longer lead fishing expeditions, and for years they would serve the village, giving the profits of their labor to the poor and to the fishermen they once looked down on. Shame would teach them what this sea did not. From that day forward, I became known as the one the ocean returned. I used my mysterious gift to protect fishermen during storms and to guide boats safely home. The sea no longer felt like a place of fear, but a place of purpose. If this story touched you, I give a special shout out to everyone who likes, follows, and shares this video with 3 of your best friends or relatives on WhatsApp. Even if you decide not to like or follow, please help this story reach others by passing it along to people you care about. Comment where you are watching from: Ghana, Nigeria, South Africa, California, Jamaica, Trinidad, New York, Florida, Kenya, or London. We would love to know. Moral lesson: jealousy destroys, but destiny cannot be drowned. What is meant for you will rise, no matter how deep it is buried.